I just spent the last few weeks building a complete game asset library using nothing but AI. And if you're still doing any of this by hand, what I'm about to show you is going to completely change how you approach building a game. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact workflow I use to generate characters, environments, props, a full sprite sheet, and even 3D models, so you can create any single asset you need for your own video game. The platform I'm using for everything today is called Higgsfield. It's an all-in-one tool that gives you access to everything you need to build out a full game asset library. The game I'm making assets for is a forest dungeon crawler, and the style I'm going with is 16-bit pixel art, but that's just my choice. This workflow works for any game style you want to build, and I'll show you exactly how to switch it up later. If you want to follow along and have your own assets ready for a video game by the time we're done, click the link in the description to sign up to Higgsfield. Once you're logged into Higgsfield, the first thing you'll notice is that everything is laid out cleanly across the navigation bar at the top. To make our assets, click on Image, and from the model selector, choose GPT Image 2. That's the model we're using for every single asset in this video, because it's currently one of the best at understanding the visual language of video games. Now set the aspect ratio to 16:9 so that everything stays consistent. The first asset is the character, and I'm basing this one on myself. If you're building a personal project, I'd actually recommend doing the same thing. It makes the character feel a lot more tied to what you're making. I'm uploading a collage of my own face as a reference. It contains multiple angles and close-ups so that the AI has a good idea of what the character should look like. I'll paste in this prompt and generate. The pixel outlines are clean. The green and brown color palette came through exactly right, and you can actually see the face reference carried into the features. This is a fully usable character sprite, and it took about 30 seconds to generate. The collage approach is what makes the face recognition work so well. A single photo gives the AI one angle to work from, but multiple shots give it enough information to actually reconstruct your features in a completely different art style. But the character is only one piece of the puzzle. The environment is the most important asset, because that's the actual world you're building, and that's where I want to show you something that I think is the most useful part of this entire workflow. The thing about environments is that the same scene can look like a completely different game depending on one small change at the end of the prompt. So instead of just generating one version, I'm going to run the same prompt through 3 different style anchors, so you can actually see what I mean. The base is this. That description stays the same across all 3. The only thing changing is the style at the end. Starting with the first one, I want to see what this looks like as a stylized 3D environment, something with a Pixar feel to it, so I'll add this and generate. The image we get back has soft, rounded shapes, warm golden lighting, and generally the kind of color grading you'd expect from a Nintendo game. If you're building a family adventure game, this is your best fit. But what if you want something completely different? I'll paste in the same base as before, but this time I'll change the style anchor to this. And even though it's the same environment, it looks like a completely different world. The color is almost completely gone, the trees are dead, and the shadows are doing most of the work. This looks like a screenshot from a Souls game. And if you're building something in the dark fantasy space, this is exactly what you'd want. And now the one I'm actually going with, I'll keep the same base, but this time with the style anchor that matches everything else I'm building. This one matches our character perfectly. The pixel outlines are clean, and the whole thing reads immediately as a top-down RPG environment. Everything shares the same color language and art style. The other 2 aren't bad at all, but they belong to different games. For this one, this is the pick. The props are next, and they're the part most people skip over, but they're also what makes a game world feel real. Props are easy to underestimate, but think about the last RPG you played and how much of the world was communicated through the objects in it. Weapons, keys, and items that the player picks up and uses matter more than people give them credit for. For this game, I'm making 2, a mage staff and a glowing runestone. Both need to match the 16-bit pixel art style, and both need to feel like they belong in the same world as everything else we just built. Let's start with the staff. I'll paste in this and generate. This came out really clean. It feels like a weapon that belongs to the world we're creating, and the materials it's made out of match our character's outfit. The side-on view means this is immediately usable as an in-game item sprite. You could drop this straight into an RPG inventory screen, and it would look like it was designed for it from the start. One thing worth noting is that I'm prompting for a neutral background on every prop. That makes it a lot easier to cut out and place the asset wherever you need it without any extra editing work. Now for the runestone, It's the same workflow. I'll paste in my prompt and generate. The cyan glow coming from inside the carved rune is a detail I really like. It reads as magical without being overdone, which is a balance that's actually hard to get right. The letter core at the top makes it feel like something a character would physically carry, like a key item rather than just a decorative object. And the style is consistent across both props. Now that all of our assets are usable, it's time to bring everything together into one place. I'll make a single asset sheet, one image that shows everything side by side, consistent in style, and ready to use as a reference or a cover image. This time, I'm uploading all 4 generated assets as references, and I'll paste in this composite prompt. Every asset from today is laid out on one sheet, and they all belong together. The ruins fill the top half. Yuri is standing in the center of the scene. The staff and the runestone are in the bottom columns with their labels underneath, and the pixel style title at the top ties the whole thing together. This is the kind of image you'd use as a pitch document, a cover image, or just a reference sheet to keep your art direction consistent as you build out the rest of the game. Now, I want to show you something before we move on, because this is the part that I think makes this workflow genuinely powerful. Everything we built today is consistent because every single prompt ended with the same style anchor. 16-bit pixel art, indie RPG style, clean pixel outlines, flat shading. That one phrase is what made all of these assets feel like they came from the same game. So watch what happens when I take the same asset sheet prompt, upload the same 4 images, and just swap that anchor out. I'm changing it to Soulslike dark fantasy art style, gothic atmosphere, desaturated palette, hand-painted detail. It's the same assets and layouts, but now for a completely different game. We touched on this briefly with the environment, but the style anchor works for every single asset you're making. Just by changing one line at the end of the prompt, we get a completely different output. And because the asset sheet pulls all 4 images together at once, you can immediately see whether everything is reading as one cohesive world or whether something feels off. It's the fastest way to quality check your entire asset library in one shot. That's the real value of understanding how this works. You build the workflow once, and then you can apply it to any game style you want. But if you want to take these assets even further, there's one more step I want to show you. If your game needs 3D models, you don't have to start from scratch. You can take the 2D assets we just generated and convert them directly. The tool for this is called Meshy. Once you're inside, the process is simple. Upload your asset image and hit generate. Meshy reads the 2D image and builds a 3D model around it. I ran the character, the mage staff, and the ancient ruins through it, and the results genuinely surprised me. The character came back as a fully formed 3D model. The mage staff kept its proportions well. The forked branch at the top is intact, and the crystal reads clearly in 3D space. The ruins took a bit more interpretation since it's a full environment rather than a single object, but the flagstones, the pillars, and the general layout are all there, and it's an environment you can move freely in. The reason the character and the staff convert so cleanly is that they were generated on neutral backgrounds with clear silhouettes. Meshy has a much easier time reading the geometry when there's no other elements other than the object itself to focus on. Meshy isn't going to hand you a production-ready model straight out of the box. You'll want to go in and do some manual cleanup after the generation, especially on something as complex as an environment. But as a starting point, it saves you hours since you're not modeling from scratch. You're refining something that already has the right shape, the right proportions, and the right visual language. And that's a completely different place to start from. With this workflow, you can create assets for any video game you're developing with any style you want. And you can do it all under one single platform using Higgsfield. So use the link in the description to sign up to Higgsfield and get started. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.